Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the next installment in our Speedrun walkthrough series. Today we will be having a look at Shadowland, and this is actually one of those zones that's fairly straightforward. There are a couple of things that you'll need to keep an eye out for if you are running through this in a new game playthrough as opposed to a new game plus one, but I will outline those points when we are, I guess, there. So what we'll need to do first is make our way over to the later sections of this game. Now, things are fairly straightforward here. There's a lot of optional combat here in this initial portion. And as you can see, those couple of opponents that we were running up against there are among the enemies that we don't have to fight, and this group is again in that same group. And here is where things can get a little bit hairy, because as you can see, there are a bunch of these searchlights that run around, and if you run into them, you will trigger a mandatory fight scene in order to get through it. So I did that deliberately just so you're kind of aware of what you need to try and avoid, but going forward here we should be fine. And what you're really looking to do is make sure that you can get to that center portion of this last area and just kind of wait for this section to roll on. Here you'll have to communicate with Jessica Jones. You can skip past her dialogue. This is an unskippable cutscene, so you won't be able to clip past this one like other cutscenes that we've seen up until this point. But from here, what you'll want to do is make your way up the ramp and into the Shadowland Temple. Now, there is actually a trick that I found here by accident, and what you'll want to do is you'll want to bring your characters all the way up to this platform here, and then double back and take out the 10 different opponents that are needed in order to progress. Because once you've gone up to that platform, that will automatically trigger this cutscene, and if you don't go up to that platform, you will have to walk up there after you've executed the combat. And additionally, if you are playing in the New Game Plus category and you get far enough ahead, you will be able to switch any other character into where you were at with Nightcrawler, and they will teleport there, which allows you to get through that fight a lot faster as well. We'll skip through the remainder of this cutscene, and this does set up a mandatory fight where you have to take down 30 enemies, and they come down in 3 separate waves. And what I really like to do here in the New Game Plus category is set up a couple of these soul siphons, because that draws all of the opponents into one singular area that the rest of your team can then make very quick work of. If you are playing through in the new game run, of course you can't do that, but the fight is still fairly straightforward. Now, once you get here, there are a couple of statues that you're going to need to move into position. The order doesn't really matter here. But the gates that are, or the statues that are up at the top, do tend to be a little bit more difficult to reposition just based off of where they are located. And if you stop with this one down here, then you are have a direct line up towards the top. Now, when you're playing through New Game, you will want to stop and pick up the box that is behind this banner, because there is an XP cube here that is really good to have for leveling up your team at a later point in time. You'll then want to make your way down and across here, and there's not a whole lot of excitement. There's a lot of combat that is optional, and you can just kind of move around. And then once you turn this corner, you'll activate another cutscene, which will then give you an idea of where the danger spots on the floor are located. And honestly, you're going to be fine here with using a teleport character, because even if you do trigger them, you're going to move right past it. Now, this here is a mandatory combat section room. You can see that there's a bunch of floor traps, but before you go in there, especially if you're playing in a new game run, you'll want to claim this box as well, because there's another really nice XP cube there, which again you can use to grind up your characters at a higher level. In here, this fight can be a little bit more tedious because you have a bunch of opponents that will stand on the outskirts of this room and throw bombs in towards the center, so that tends to be particularly annoying. If you're playing in the New Game Plus category, of course you'll want to use Thanos Infinite, much like we did before, and draw everyone into the center of the room. That will include the opponents that are on the outskirts of the room and playing harder to get. From here, you'll want to move right past and interact with this door, and as soon as you've done so, you'll activate another cutscene that you can skip through, and then there is a unskippable cutscene here that goes into the Electra fight. With the Electra fight, what you'll want to do is get through these hand mystics as quickly as you can, because they will prevent you from progressing any further in the Electra fight, and then you'll just kind of need to slowly make your way through her. She can be particularly annoying because she does regenerate her stagger gauge a little bit quicker than most people do, and you can't deal any damage to her when she is being helped or aided by those hand mystics. So that is necessary that you take them down before trying to do anything with Electra herself. From here, things get pretty straightforward. You'll just want to make your way through and up these stairs. Actually, no. Before you do that, you'll want to take a moment and level up your team here. And if you want to switch characters, you can. I don't think any of the characters that you have gained up until this point in a new game playthrough are really worth switching onto the team. And you will also want to make sure that back behind these boxes, you grab the XP cube that is located within that box as well. Now, you could choose to use it on your team, as that is not necessary from the shield access point that's back there. It really just kind of depends on how you're feeling. After that, those are all of the key points in Shadowland that you'll need to keep an eye open for. And then you just need to make your way down to the end of this hall, and you can ignore the rest of those opponents because they are not mandatory, and all of these guys are optional as well. You'll then want to make your way over the top of this roof and into the room for the Bullseye fight. And again, this is a lot of combat that is optional, it is not mandatory, and you do need to make your way a certain length into this room in order to activate this dialogue sequence that takes you into a cutscene that you can skip. Now, Bullseye can be a little bit of a nuisance just based off the fact that he doesn't stand still, and he does hit a little bit harder, and his attacks can be a little more difficult to dodge and get away from, but the sequence of attacking into him is very straightforward, and you shouldn't have much trouble getting through his fight as long as you're aware of his patterns. And the biggest thing that you got to watch out for is the series of shurikens that he throws out one after the other, as well as the javelin, which continues through the entire battle arena. Now, from this point forward, the only fight that we have left on our docket is the Kingpin Fight, and there is one of my favorite puzzles in the game that we have to do before we get to this point. And that is the room with the statues. Now, you can use Thanos Infinite if you're playing New Game Plus, but you will want to use Hulk in a New Game run because he is a bigger character which can shrug off some of the lower hits from your opponents. Now, what I love doing and what is very optimal for this is taking all of these statues and positioning them just above the platforms of origin, and then as you move to click them into place, you will have a sequences of enemies that pop in here that you will then have to deal with. And it gets particularly difficult when there are all three of the waves of enemies in place. But if we play our cards right, we should be able to do just fine here. It really comes down to getting around all of those explosives that are being thrown down by the mystics above, or the hand warriors that are up on this walkway. But once you're through that, all of those opponents are optional, as well as all of the opponents in this hallway, so you can skip right past the clusters of hand warriors that are around here, make your way down around this way, and then you'll just need to jump onto this elevator. You can't jump over that wall, unfortunately. You do have to come around the designated entrance for it, and then it's just a matter of interacting with this door and getting into the Kingpin Fight. Now, the Kingpin Fight is fairly predictable. He will always grab his little armchair first there, so you will want to take him out or aim for him while he's there. In New Game Plus, you can take him out very quickly. If you are in the New Game run, it's going to take a lot more. And one of the things that you'll need to be cautious of with Kingpin in this fight is he has attacks that he will barrel across the battlefield, or he will grab these pillars and swing them around violently once you get into the second section of this fight. But that's really everything that you need to be aware of for the Shadowland portion of the game, because after the Kingpin fight, you just have Jessica Jones over here that you'll interact with, and that will take you over to Avengers Tower, which we will cover next week. But thank you so much for taking the time to watch today's video. I really hope that you're enjoying and learning from these, and if you are, please let me know in the comments, and be sure to leave a like on today's video. Thanks for your time, and I hope that you have an absolutely fantastic rest of your day.